Hey, Candace.
Hey, Counselor.
Hi, Candace. I'm probably going to start. It's almost 10 past 1. So I'm going to start without the administration panelists. I don't want to keep people waiting. Okay.
Okay, perfect. We're live and we're recording on all devices. So whenever you're ready to start, you have the go.
Thank you. Thank you for attending this Boston City Council hearing. My name is City Councilor Ed Flynn, and I'm chair of the Committee on City and Neighborhood Services. Today, we're having a hearing on docket 0352, petition of a Yankee Line for a license to operate motor vehicle for the carriage of passengers for hire over certain streets in Boston. I am joined at this time by my colleague, City Councilor Kenzie Bock. This hearing is being recorded and live streamed at boston.gov/citycouncil-tv. It will be rebroadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, FiOS Channel 962. The Zoom link to provide public testimony for this hearing can be found by emailing juan.lopez@boston.gov. Please make sure that your Zoom handle is your full name. When you are called, please state your name and affiliation/residence and limit your comments to 2 minutes to ensure that all comments and concerns can be heard. If you are unable to provide testimony today, you may also submit written testimony or a 2-minute video for our record by emailing the committee at ccc.cns@boston.gov or filling out the form on our website within 48 hours following this hearing. I will first let my colleagues offer opening statements, then hand it over to the panelists that are here. After that, I'll let my colleagues offer questions and comments, then call for public testimony if there is any. At this time, we have invited the administration panelists, including Ed Hesford from the Boston Transportation Department, who's the supervising traffic engineer, Captain James Goggin from the Boston Police Department, Hackney Division, Carriage Unit, and Mike Costa from the Yankee Line. I don't have any opening statements that I'm going to provide. So I'm going to ask Councilor Bock, I don't know if you want to offer any opening statements or if we go right to the Yankee Line for their opening presentation.
I'm fine to go right to the petitioner. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Bock. At this time, Mike Costa, who is with Yankee Line, I'd like to offer you the opportunity to provide an opening statement, explain the proposal, and after that, we'll have Q&A and/or testimony also from City of Boston officials. Mike Costa from Yankee Line.
Good afternoon, Councilor Flynn, Councilor Block, and everybody else on the call. Thank you for joining. So just a real quick synopsis on our company. So we're based in Boston, based in South Boston specifically for over 40 years. Most of what we do is private transportation for companies that are having events in the city, meetings, conventions, private tour companies. Most of interaction is actually somebody that is hiring our vehicle to then provide a tour or a dinner or some other connection between hotel and convention center or to another city. This is a little bit unique in the sense that we have not in the past provided any direct consumer option. So we have, in most cases, we are hired by somebody else. We're in a B2B interaction versus a B2C direct with the consumer. This is what we're looking at right now, is providing a direct consumer option here, which is why we're here. So we are full disclosure. We are approved by the Department of Transportation, the Department of Defense. They are our client of ours, moving in the military quite often. In addition to Massachusetts Department of Public Utilities Transportation Oversight Division. That allows us to provide chartered transportation for B2B interactions in the state of Massachusetts as well as the United States. and for the military as well. The proposal that we're looking at right now is to potentially run a service to the South Shore, utilizing a location right off of Congress Street, 313 Congress Street, which is opposite the Children's Museum facing east on Congress Street. We're looking at potentially running a service that is a hybrid commuter / leisure option to provide connection and accessibility for the Seaport District as well as the South Shore. This will have specific scheduled departures. We're looking at between 5 and 10 departures maximum per day. Vehicles that will be accommodating this would be ADA accessible motor coaches. They are running clean diesel engine technology with a DEF solution instead of oil, which kind of makes them a little bit cleaner. The buses that will be servicing this will be coming from Logan Airport to the Seaport District and then heading to the South Shore, utilizing the Hall Road as a primary route, staying clear of congested Atlantic Ave, congested Summer Street as much as possible. We view this as a good solution to reduce the carbon footprint by having less single occupancy vehicles in the Seaport District, providing accessibility for locations such as the Children's Museum, such as Moakley Courthouse, as well as the employers in the area such as Amazon, Vertex, PricewaterhouseCoopers, to name a few. Again, I want to reiterate that all these vehicles will be ADA accessible, and our goal is to, or not our goal, the priority would be to not have any vehicles there for more time than they are loading passengers. So they're pulling up, they're loading, and they're leaving. No staging of vehicles, no idling of vehicles, pulling up, leaving. The reason why, ideally, we would have liked to be in South Station. Unfortunately, South Station, even with COVID at this moment, is at capacity. There is a plan to expand the South Station bus terminal with the air rights over South Station, which is in progress. However, that is not until late 22, early 23 at best. We are in queue for one of those dock spaces. However, we do believe that this may provide a pretty good solution in lieu of there not being space at South Station for more accessibility for the Seaport District. The space itself that we're looking at on Congress Street, 313 Congress Street, is 70 feet long by 110 inches wide. The vehicles that we'll be pulling up in that space are 45 feet long by 102 inches wide. And that area is an approved spot. It's a spot that is intended for buses. It is a very underutilized spot because there is no regular tour route that currently travels on that location. There was an intermittent connection for Old Town Trolley, and that was for a Seaport connection that provided accessibility for their primary route. So every hour or so, a trolley would hit that location, pick up a limited amount of people, and then continue to connect with their primary route, which is a Jitney-approved tour route of Boston. That's all I have at this time. Our main goal here is really, we're an affected business by COVID right now. We're looking to pivot to provide a new service, a direct-to-consumer service, in lieu of there not being as many international tourists or tourists in general. We're looking to see if we can provide this option to not only provide that solution for capturing a portion of business that we don't currently offer, but also to increase accessibility for this area that doesn't currently have any direct option. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. At this time, I don't know if the administration team is on here yet.
Counselor Ed is in the attendees list. If we can promote him to the panel, that would be great.
Thank you, Chantel. We are also joined now by Ed Hesford from the Boston Transportation Department. He's a supervising traffic engineer. Ed, would you like to open up with a opening statement? I think you're on mute, Ed.
Yes, we received the application from the proponent for the proposed routing. The routing in the department's opinion, as of right now, it seems very feasible and very innovative. That. However, the only concern right now that we have is the sighting of the actual stop. Yeah, I just need a little bit of a clarification. Is the stop you're looking for, is that the stop on Dorchester Avenue, not on Congress, correct?
The stop we were originally looking at, Ed, was intended to be on Congress, right in front of 313 Congress. We viewed that as kind of the quieter of the two, in lieu of Dorchester Street between Congress and Summer Street. However, where either of them is in the same area, if there's a preference on behalf of BTD's, and we're more than happy to adjust our plans for sure.
Yep, no, I appreciate that. And the 313, is that on the Children's Museum side where the MBTA bus stop is?
No, it's opposite. It is on the eastbound side of Congress. 313 is kind of has an archway on the building. I believe that Grand Circle Travel occupied the building, but it is opposite the Hood Children's side. It's facing east.
Got it. Yeah, got it. Yep. I mean, I think as the captain will say, we had a discussion with that Captain Goggin from Hackney. I mean, obviously seeing the need, I mean, lesser served routes, it's well thought out. I mean, with the contingency that obviously you're working to get the bus operations within South Station, that ultimately is what we want to see, because because of the how many people and what folks are looking for on street at these days, be it a bike lane, be it a bus lane, outdoor cafes. We're really tied up with requests for curb space. So bus operation should be in a bus station. That's where we're looking at it. I know you're working to that end, so we appreciate that.
Understood. Thanks, Mr. Hesford.
Thank you. Thank you, Ed.
Yep.
Mike, I just want to, do you have the option of sharing us a photo of the actual two sites you're recommending, just so we see it on screen?
Yes, let me go ahead. How is best to do that? Sharing my screen, perhaps?
Yes, Candace,
Okay.
is Mike able to share those photos?
Yes, Mr. Chair, he has the ability to share screen.
Okay.
Okay, I will 30 seconds right here, and I'll go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Okay, is that visible?
I don't, yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay. So this is 313 Congress. Again, to Mr. and Hesford's point, this is one of the two locations. This one, us not being a transportation department, view this as the least currently utilized location in this section. It says bus on the stop. However, there is no MBTA bus stop here. It is really intended for tour buses only. And it is not a very frequented tour bus location. So we're thinking that even if tour buses were to return back to their normal frequency of visitation, that this would still be a fairly viable option. This is looking east on Congress Street. This is the Children's Museum. This is the Congress Street Bridge. If you travel further west on Congress Street, past the Tea Party Museum to Dorchester Ave, this is the location that Mr. Hesford was speaking of, which is Dorchester Ave. So vehicles would travel from Summer Street, which is on the far side of the screen, take a right on Dorchester Ave, and then pick up on this curb space right here. Vehicles would be facing the Congress Street Bridge at this intersection here, dropping off at the corner. This area is ideal. However, it's actually more ideal based on the proximity to South Station. However, the issue with this location that we saw is that it is fairly busy during rush hour, because this is a location that shuttle vehicles are picking up to connect to Seaport District employers. So the Fort Blanc Channel, Vertex has a shuttle, PricewaterhouseCoopers, I believe, has a shuttle as well. Down by Black Falcon Cruise Terminal, there's also a shuttle as well. So, so we view this as potentially us getting in the way with the curb space that's already busy. However, if there's a preference for us to be here versus 313 Congress Street, we're more than willing to make it happen. And I think that one thing I don't want to key in on is that these vehicles are not going to be there for more than the time that it takes to load passengers, whether it be a person that is in a wheelchair or a scooter, or a passenger that is simply alighting or boarding on foot. And there is pedestrian access here to cross both sides. If somebody's across the street, we would direct anybody that is coming from South Station on either side. Obviously, they'd be more on the southern side of the road here if they're coming from South Station, but they're crossing here. It's a pretty clearly marked crosswalk.
You're recommending where this truck would be, is that right?
Yes, Councilor. Yeah, this is the spot that we view as very underutilized currently right now. It's 70 feet long. The vehicles that we're proposing are 45 feet long. It fits quite well there without impacting anything else or minimizing the impact of anything else.
But you're not recommending across the street on the right next to the Children's Museum itself, is that right?
That's correct. No, we're not recommending that simply because it is a number 4. I don't believe there's a sign on it, but there is a number 4 MBTA bus that picks up on that side. Plus, that area is congested as it is with general pedestrian traffic for the Children's Museum on a busy day. So we wouldn't want to impact that. Okay.
So I have some routine, some general questions I would like to ask for the record. So I just want to make sure, Mike and to Ed, have you both agreed in writing about the written exact routes that this bus would take?
So the Transportation Department has not put in writing as of yet the routing. We're not opposed to what the routing is. However, the stop location needs to be discussed further and how we're going to cite that if in fact that's the way we're going to go. So, we have to look at our current licensees for sightseeing, obviously the surrounding abutters. So we need to, basically reach out and do some more homework on citing the actual stop. But the route itself, we've reviewed, that's not an issue. It's going to be the stop.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you, Ed. So there's more work that we still have to do. This is kind of an initial step that we are taking, but there's a lot of outstanding work we are doing, hopefully over the next couple of weeks and couple months. But I appreciate that response, Ed. I also wanted to recognize and acknowledge Ken Brissett, who's also here helping Mike Coster as well. So, Mike, do you have a copy of the notice of this hearing that was published in the newspaper?
Council, I actually have that.
Okay. Can you just forward that to my office, Ken?
Yes.
Okay. And again, just going over general questions. Do you have mail receipts from your notices sent to the Boston Police Commissioner and the MBTA?
Yes, Council, I can provide that to you.
Okay. Mike, could you explain your background? I know you highlighted it at the beginning, but for the record, could you explain your background and any experience in this area of transportation? And again, I know I had a conversation with you over the weekend and just wanted to acknowledge that for the record as well.
Yes, no, appreciate it, Councilor. So I have been in this industry a good part of my life. Our company is based in South Boston. We're 40 years young. We've been in South Boston for 30 of those 40 years, moving over from Allston and Brighton at the beginning of the first 40 before I was born. We take pride in being a part of the community, where we work with Castle Island Association to provide trips. We're in the transportation business, and we are also in the tourism business. We're taking people to locations to explore other areas, and also bringing people to this area to explore this area, whether it be a convention, a museum, or a Sox game. We view this as just another offering of what we already do, and we're grateful for the relationship we've had with the City of Boston through interaction. City of Boston is a customer of ours from providing transportation in some cases, as well as the MBTA. So this is kind of a unique thing where we're not necessarily being hired by a customer to provide transportation on behalf of them, whether it's a tour operator or a public entity or the government. We're in this case looking to provide a direct consumer option. So we're looking to use our the same application of what we do, which is providing safe, reliable transportation. We're approved by the DOT as well as DPU for providing transportation on many different levels, between the ADA accessibility to general safe operation. But we're looking to see if we can apply this in the same format, just direct to consumer.
Thank you, Mike. I have about 7 or 8 more questions, but before I do that, I wanted to give Councilor Bach an opportunity to ask questions, just because I'm going to be here for a while, and I wanted to give Councilor Bach an opportunity to ask her questions now instead of waiting. So, Councilor Bach, I'm going to be here for a while, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to ask questions that you might have, and then I'll go back to my questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to ask, Ed, this is maybe for you and BTD, but in terms of that proviso about getting this use ultimately within the bus station and South Station, I mean, I'm inclined to, like, I think, Mike's made a good pitch for why this is a spot that's underutilized, and it's a chance. We all want to see people coming into the city and leaving the city by bus instead of single vehicle trips. So I think we have an interest, but I also think that, temporary solutions like this can very quickly kind of, you blink and a decade passes and it becomes the permanent solution. And as Ed alluded to, we've got more and more competition for curb space in the city. And so I'm just wondering, Ed, if you could speak to if there's are these licenses for a time limited period of time? Is there a way to put a kind of condition around it about continuing to be in that queue and trying to get space inside of South Station, or how should we understand the options there?
I think, Counselor, very good question. I think, through the license that's granted through the City Council with recommendations from both Captain Gog and myself, being from Hackney, I think when the license is actually granted, that there be a proviso included in that granting the license, with that caveat that it is a temporary, situation until that space becomes available at the South Station Transportation Center. So there is ways to insert that language within the grant of the license, certainly.
Great. So then I guess, Mr. Chairman, I would just urge that whatever action we take on this as a council kind of be in that context, because, I think I know things are slow moving sometimes on the South Station side. And I hear you on wanting to start this service up ASAP, Mike, and we're all cognizant of trying to create, local tourism opportunities as we kind of move through an unsettled period. But I do think I would want us to kind of keep that goal of getting it into the station kind of top of mind, because obviously for us, it's like there might be one somewhat underutilized bus stop, but everybody, if South Station doesn't deal with its own pressures by expanding, we're just going to see more and more companies in a position like yours looking to do this on the public curb space. I think there are places, I think about New York City, where you catch the buses to Boston. It's kind of a vast sort of Port Authority style zone. This is separate from the official stations, but we can't treat the seaport that way, right? It's become a densely settled district. And so I just think we have to be careful that we don't create a precedent here where we do a ton more of this. So that would be my main caveat, Mr. Chairman. I think I appreciated the presentation and I understand the logic of the site. I guess the only question would be, Mike, in terms of route, I mean, it certainly seemed to me like just from visually that the Dorchester Ave spot would be more likely to kind of obstruct traffic. And it also seemed like you'd have to use Summer Street to get there. Is that right? I wondered if you could speak to us just a little bit about the route, since this is a bus that's going in and coming out of the city. Like if you're at the 313 Congress stop, like what's the immediate route in and out?
So yes, Councilor. So there would be travel from Summer Street to Dorchester Ave, to take a right on Dorchester Ave, to then take a right on to Congress Street in either application. However, the buses itself would be coming to and from that location by Hall Road, bypass road. So they wouldn't necessarily be traveling at the intersection of Summer and Atlantic, where everything kind of comes together in the worst way there.
I see. So they're going to take that bypass. And forgive me, I'm not that familiar with how that bypass is regulated. Is it just for bus travel, or?
It's in conflict at the moment. It was originally for commercial traffic, intended for access to the port, for trucks and buses, all commercial vehicles. I believe right now there's a hybrid option. Ed Hesford probably has a better handle on this, but there's a hybrid option right now where it allows for cars, personal occupancy vehicles, to come from 93 into the Seaport District, but not from the Seaport District to 93. I believe there was a pilot, and I believe that is now extended. But overall, it is an underutilized road, and the original intention, and I think still the current utilization of it, is for commercial traffic.
Got it. Okay, and then in terms of, people would just be standing there in front of 313 Congress. You're not seeking permission to put up a shelter or anything like that.
No, not seeking permission to put up a shelter or anything. Anybody that is showing up here has a ticket that's confirmed for this departure. They're not necessarily looking to step up and hand cash on the street. It's a controlled environment.
And how do you guys handle your shift changes for something like this? And I ask that because in my experience, the times when a bus is idling in a place it doesn't normally mean to be idling for a long period of time have to do with one driver goes off shift and the other driver's late getting on shift. So I'm just wondering if that's going to happen at this site or not.
No, so we do have the luxury to our offices. Our terminal is in South Boston, right in the corner of 370 West First Street, so First Street in Pappas Way. So we would utilize our terminal there to make sure we're not doing that there. This is where our drivers report. They take transit here, and then they report for their shift. So any of the scheduling that we do is simply for a vehicle that is intended to pick up or drop off at that location. If it's in between a shift change, they're going back to our terminal, not and doing it on site.
Got it. Great. So you're not going to have drivers changing shift at that spot.
Correct.
Okay. I think those are my main questions. Yeah, thank you all for the presentation. And thanks, Mr. Chair and Ed, for being on. Like I said, Mr. Chairman, I just think we should make sure to attach that proviso around kind of the long-term South Station solution. So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Council Walker. I also want to acknowledge Captain Goggin is on with us from the Boston Police. Before I continue with my questions, Captain Goggin, did you want to weigh in at all before I continue?
Councilors, I just want to apologize for the technical difficulties. I guess being a relic makes these things more difficult for a fellow like myself. But it wasn't that I was late. It was just not for a lack of effort. It was that I needed to call in a whole staff to get me up and running. So I apologize, and I missed most of the presentation on Yankee Lines, but I do appreciate you calling me for input. The Boston Police are always concerned about, the public safety of pedestrians and riders. And so I appreciate the opportunity to just throw that out there. I heard some remarks mentioned about South Station possibly being a solution in the future, and that was what we wanted to discuss with you. Is that I mean, obviously that would be the ideal. The problem may not be Yankee lines themselves, but the problem may be numerous other jitneys that aren't coming to you for licenses and aren't coming, to the city council as they should be, and are parking all over the, various areas of the city. And that's what concerns us. So there are spots that are more difficult than others. And I'm sure if Copley Square was mentioned, that's really, too populated a spot for it. I heard Mr. Costa mention that right now they're at West First and Pappas Way. And again, if they have a off-street spot there, I don't know what the feelings of the nearby residents are, but off-street would be something less of a problem to the Boston Police as far as public safety matter goes. Anything on the street really worries us. So that's it in a nutshell. After missing most of it, I don't want to go on other than to say that. And again, my apologies to your councilors, but I appreciate the time you've given me.
Thank you. Thank you, Captain Goggin. We appreciate you being on. You've been very responsive, and it's good to work with you and your team. And you guys are very professional. Thank you, Captain Goggin.
Thank you. It's good to work with you also. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mike, I'm just going to continue asking some of these questions. Experience and training for the drivers and other employees. Can you talk about that, please?
Sure. So we have a two-part training program. Training is focused one part on safety, other part on customer service. The safety element is really driven by an overreaching focus on the Department of Transportation requirements, which includes drug screening, it includes driver training, it includes requiring drivers to have a CDL license in good standing. Every one of our applicants, we do a thorough background check to review all history in the past, from driving history to any other issues throughout the U.S. that would flag any kind of a criminal situation throughout the U.S. We then pull motor vehicle records at least every month, sometimes more frequently for every individual, so that if somebody is hired for us and they have an implication when they're not driving for us, they're driving their personal vehicle or something else like that, we are able to capture that internally. We also have a third party that reviews that system to make sure that that's followed through as well. We have the initial drug testing. We have a quarterly random drug testing as well. So that we're making sure that an individual is clean and in good health condition, and then we're making sure that that sustains itself as we go forward. In addition to the drug screening, there's a requirement of a medical certificate, so a card that is given to them by a doctor that approves that this individual is safe to drive with the DOT requirement. So there's a lifting requirement, there's a blood pressure requirement, there's a diabetes requirement, making sure that an individual is safe, he's clean, and he's in healthy enough condition to actually perform his job. On the customer service side, we focus on ADA accessibility. All these vehicles are ADA accessible, and then the general operation of the vehicle. We're transporting people, we're not transporting lettuce or boxes. So making sure we know how to deal with certain situations if they arise is critical.
Thank you, Mike. Prior to this job, I had the opportunity to serve 10 years as a probation officer. I probably have given thousands of drug testing or screens to my probationers. I guess I'd reference that because what are you doing in terms of drug testing and marijuana and drug testing and prescription drugs, legal prescription drugs? How would you factor in someone testing positive for marijuana and someone testing positive for prescribed legal drugs, say following an accident?
It's a good question, and it's an especially interesting question with the changing of laws on legalization of certain drugs. Ultimately, right now, we defer to the Department of Transportation, the federal guidelines, which, regardless of state guidelines of what may be legal or what may be illegal on recreational marijuana, which is now a different environment for our industry, DOT supersedes that as far as how we do our testing. So if anybody has any habituation in the system at all, that is automatically a disqualification for, number one, being hired if you test positive while you're employed for us, or for that matter, any DOT-approved carrier. You're coming off the road immediately, and you go into counseling and rehab in order to retain or reestablish your position.
So from my experience as a probation officer, marijuana could stay in your system up to 28 days, 30 days. If a bus driver were tested positive for marijuana, and maybe he hasn't smoked or she hasn't smoked marijuana in, say, 7 days, it's still in your system, what would happen in that case?
So there's the initial drug test. However, there's the random drug test, which we do them more frequently than they're required. We also have staff that are trained to look at different signals, eye dilation, general perception of the individual, how they're acting, how they're responding. We meet each one of our staff members at the start of their shift in person each day, and that person that's meeting that individual each day is trained to recognize certain key factors that if there is an issue there, then there's the next trickle down step that happens. Bottom line, it's very difficult to track when somebody does have something like this because you can only test somebody so many times. Mm-hmm. However, by having the random element in place combined with viewing the individual in person, as well as really just vetting out ahead of time the individuals that you're hiring. Usually somebody's history is indicative of their future. So if somebody has a bad history, then they're potentially going to have not a good career with our company. So we look at those traits and we do our best to get ahead of that so we don't have any issues like that.
Thank you. How would you respond to complaints from passengers?
So we set up a dedicated email that is receptive to any passenger that has any issues. We are a 24-hour operation, so they can feel free to pick up the phone and call us at any time. And we are active on social media to capture that as well.
Thank you. And just going back, if there's one issue that I've focused more on over the last 3 years, it's pedestrian safety. It's a critical issue for me and for my constituents. So like Captain and like Ed, I take that issue very seriously as well. So, so you will have some follow-up conversations with Ed and about establishing and recommending a potential site. But before you do that, tell me about the outreach you've done with the residents, with the neighborhood, with the civic associations. Have you engaged them yet, or what has been the response or communication like?
So we have reached out, albeit on Friday, but I have reached out to the 4 Point Neighborhood Association to communicate our intention and be responsive to any feedback that they receive. We are a member of the community ourselves, so we can definitely continue that conversation with the stakeholders and South Boston in general. It's kind of an odd location where it's bridging downtown and 4 Point, but 4 Point I would view as the primary stakeholder to make sure that they're in agreement with us.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It'd be 4 Point Neighborhood Association, and they meet frequently. And if you need to be part of their official agenda, please let me know, and I'll make sure that you will be part of the agenda. I'll recommend it and ask for you. besides the city of Boston, do you need anyone else to sign off on this? Is there any state agency that needs to be part of this discussion?
So we are approved by the Department of Public Utilities, Transportation Oversight, as well as the Department of Transportation. This is viewed as a interstate run, believe it or not, so it's really viewed as a Department of Transportation oversight route because it connects to an inner-city connection, which is Logan Airport. Logan Airport provides access to other states, so that is then determined an inner-city route. So yes, we're approved by the Department of Transportation as well as DPU.
Okay. And possible schedules for this service, even if it's tentative, could you maybe highlight it generally and then also provide me a copy of it so I can have it for the record?
Yes, absolutely. Roughly, just to provide some perspective, we're looking at every other hour from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. With the potential for it to flex if there is demand, but that's at least the initial intention.
Okay. What do you propose for charging people for a fare, and how would someone pay for that fare? Would it be in cash, or would it be over their smartphone or cell phone, or printing out a receipt?
So it's dynamic ticket pricing. So prices range from $20 to $50 one way, depending on how far the individual is traveling, and what time of the day they're traveling. The tickets will be all online. It'll be a online sales only, no cash fare service.
Okay, no cash service. Okay. And if you have any draft brochures about this service, could you provide them to me as well for the record?
Yes, Councilor.
Okay. So Mike, can you explain what type of buses these are for people that may not understand the different types or sizes of buses? Can you give us an overview of this and explain the physical dimensions of the bus?
Sure. No, and it's important to differentiate them because they are a little different. So it's referred to as an inner city motor coach. So which is different than a city bus, which has two doors and an open floor plan seating configuration, or a trolley, which is open air and it's a little smaller. The length of the vehicle is 45 feet long. The width of the vehicle is 102 inches wide, and the height is 12 feet high. There are between 46 and 56 seats on board the coach. They have the amenities on board feature Wi-Fi, power outlets, tray tables. We plan to have some refreshments on board, soft drinks, coffee, juice, tea, that kind of thing. And the vehicles themselves, which is a very important piece, they are all ADA accessible. So that's a big piece. They're made, we have made in two different manufacturers. One of them is Mercedes in Germany, and the other one is MCI, which is in North Dakota.
So the bus would be 45 feet in length. How long is the parking area for the bus?
It's 70 feet long by 110 inches wide.
Would that give you enough space to pull in there into that bus stop and, reverse it safely so you could make sure that the bus is in the space properly without kind of being over into the second lane?
Yes, it is coming from the bridge, so it's on a pretty straight angle, not making a turn to pull into the spot. So it's coming straight angle at the space, pulls over to the right, hits the space, and it wouldn't need to do anything besides just pull away straight to the curb, wouldn't need a reverse or anything back. So it's an ideal location because we don't need to do any of that, because we're not approaching from an angle, taking a turn, and then pulling into space.
Okay, but you would have the traffic lights there before you pull in the space across the street from, obviously across the street from the Children's Museum. But so you'd stop at the traffic light, let people go, obviously, if it's a red light, and then pull into the space. What speed would you be coming? One of my other issues is the speed of cars or buses or trucks in our city. I think it's 25 miles an hour is very fast going throughout Boston. In especially some of our dense neighborhoods, I've been advocating for 3 years to reduce it to 20 miles an hour. But having said that, what speed would you be going as you pull towards the aquarium, going to the lights, as you're going into the parking spot, that would enable you to stop appropriately if there's anyone in the crosswalk, if the light is red, or even if the light is green and someone continues to walk in the crosswalk? I just want to know about how you guys view speed as you factor in pulling into a spot.
So I would assume less than 10 miles an hour at that point. We're slowing down we have every reason to be slowing down at that point. We have a crosswalk to be slowing down for. We have a light that we anticipate that it's going to be red for. And then we're stopping for the stop, or we're gearing up to start stopping for the stop. So at that point, all of the cards are in our favor for slowing down, not accelerating at that point.
Now, if someone, Mike, was in the crosswalk and you were going 10 miles an hour, someone was in the crosswalk and you had the right of way, you had the green light, are you able to stop effectively, even if a pedestrian is in the crosswalk walking, even though you have the right of way, you can effectively stop at 10 miles an hour effectively?
Yes, conceptually we can, we should be. We should not ever, we don't end up triggering, if somebody's in the crosswalk period, if it's a traffic controlled crosswalk or not, we're giving them the right of way. That is how our training is driven. As a redundant note, our vehicles do have collision avoidance. So they have the same system that a car senses in the front as somebody's in front of the vehicle. That's a Mercedes technology component that we paid extra for to have in our vehicles. So that automatically locks up the bus as well to avoid that collision. In addition to that, something that's kind of it's an important training session that we do, but and we don't do it for all of our staff, but we try to rotate them in. So we actually have a course where we send our drivers to Germany, 10 drivers every year. We didn't do it this past year, but we do it every other year. We bring them to a racetrack in Hockenheim, Germany, and we mimic emergency situations. One of the emergency situations is an unanticipated stop. So there's a trainer on the course, it's a wet course, and somebody rolls the ball in front of the bus at a location that the driver doesn't know. And it opens our driver's eyes up to the amount of time that it takes for you to see something, to the amount of time that it tells your body to apply the brake. And it really opens up everybody's eyes on our team that, wow, if you don't anticipate something, it's a long time for your eyes, to your brain, to your foot to do something. So, but bottom line, the takeaway of that is that it provides our team with a more critical sense of awareness to make sure that you're fully concentrated as much as possible on that, and identifying reaction time.
When you would pull up to that light near the aquarium, and you had the green light, but would there be any issues in terms of any like blind spots you would see not seeing out of the bus, whether it's on the right-hand side because the door is there, or the left-hand side, or maybe because the bus is up higher than the traditional car view? Is there any issues in terms of vision that a bus driver might not see a pedestrian crossing into the crosswalk?
So the bus in general, and again, I'd like to have you come and check out them out in person if you have any interest, but we have a unique advantage of being up high. So we're up higher. We have mirrors that look down the whole side of the vehicle, more so than a car in some cases, because they're longer, they're wider, and they're designed to look from top to bottom. The issue that we have from a blind spot perspective is directly in front of the vehicle where it is too far for the driver to look under.
No.
So that's, but at that point, it's already an issue. So the collision avoidance system is definitely something that helps provide that redundancy there. But overall, it's the same location for a car. If somebody's directly in front of a bumper in a car, you're not going to see them. It's similar to a bus. If you're directly below the driver, you're not going to see them. But as far as side angles, it has amazing side angles, wide view. When you put on your directional on these vehicles as well, it shows an image on the dash that shows a camera down the side of the vehicle that shows you another vantage point as well. So, and like I mentioned as well, there's a collision avoidance system. So if you put on your right directional as a bicyclist coming down your right, it'll send you an audible signal. It'll vibrate your seat, and it'll say basically every reaction that you would need to know that don't do this. There's something wrong there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Michael. I know you mentioned several times that all your buses are ADA compliance. Thank you. I'm vice chair of civil rights, and that's probably one of the topics I focus most on is services and respect for our persons with disabilities. Having said that, and as it relates to a person with disabilities in a wheelchair, that are lower on the ground level as the navigating the street, the crosswalk. Do you have any challenges with people in wheelchairs as it relates to any type of vision that might be reduced at that time?
Not really. I guess the main thing that is important to note about anybody that's in a wheeled mobility device, whether it be a scooter or wheelchair or a bicycle, is that they are in some ways more limited to where their access points are. They're not coming off a curb. They're not coming off of a location that wouldn't have a ramp on it. So it's usually right by a pedestrian access point. But no, that is definitely something that we always train on as far as anybody that's in any form of accessibility, crossing the street in any location. It doesn't matter their level of accessibility.
Council Block, I know you have your hand up. Would you like to weigh in with a question or two?
I'm so sorry, Mr. Chairman. I have to go for 2 o'clock. I just wanted to put 2 things on the record.
Mm-hmm.
So one is that I would encourage Ed from BTD and others just to follow up with the applicant further along the lines you talked about with the blind spot and everything. I did notice that the place where the bus is going to pull to the curb aligns with the end of a protected bike lane that then becomes an unprotected bike lane. So I just really want to make sure from a Vision Zero perspective that, you know, we're really thinking through just there. It's sort of like you're crossing, you know, and I would hate for us not to think that through and have it be dangerous for our bicyclists. And so just would love if BTD would look at that and talk it through with the applicant. And then the other thing is just because the captain came on after I had asked my questions, just it would be great, Captain Goggin, just to understand, and this could be a follow-up with the council, but to kind of understand like what the lay of the land is in terms of how many of these jitney setups we've licensed around the city. And I'd also love to understand I mean, you mentioned folks who don't come to us for a license and do this, and I'm just curious what our enforcement sort of actions and mechanisms are, because it seems to me like if someone's doing that routinely, it surely should be something that we can stop. It's obviously harder to catch a one-off, but so I think this is less related to the applicant specific application and more kind of just, this is my first time really understanding this issue, and I'd love to get some more of that data.
I agree with you, Council. We'll try to get you some more information on it. And I appreciate it. I just got back to this position at the licensing in Hackney about a week and a half ago. So I'm kind of thrust back into it. But I'll be happy to work with you and Councilor Flynn to get you that information. Thank you.
I think that'd be great. I think it's really important. For
And
us.
Councilor, on your first point, duly noted, we will take that in advisement also.
Great, thanks. That'd be great. And I'm so sorry that I have to go, but thank you all and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Block. Mike, you guys have a certificate of incorporation from the Secretary of State, is that correct?
Yes, Councilor.
You do, yeah. You guys have proper insurance as well, right?
Yes, exceeding the minimum.
Yeah, and for the record, Mike, if you're able to send copies of that to me. You don't do, I know you guys do great work, Mike, but you don't do any other work under a different name besides your current name, is that right?
Correct. No, it's and the legal name of the company is A Yankee Line, DBA Yankee Line.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. I'm going to see if any of my colleagues are back on yet. I know there was another meeting some of them had to go to. Okay. Candace, can you tell me if there's any testimony from the public?
Mr. Chair, I don't currently have any testimony from the public.
Okay.
Nobody requested the link.
Okay. Thank you, Juan, and thank you, Candace. Okay, I don't have any further questions. I don't necessarily have a closing statement. I just want to encourage you to, again, reach out to the Fort Point Neighbor Association and continue working with Captain Goggin and continue working with Ed and his team over at Transportation. And do you have any questions for me, Mike?
No, thank you, Councilor. Thanks for the time today. We're, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, we're a member of the community. We've been in South Boston for all of our time. I live in South Boston. Most of our staff lives in South Boston. So we're looking to do things the right way, and we want to make sure we're abiding by everything we need to be, because we're not going anywhere. We want to make sure that we're not just coming in here doing something, assuming something incorrectly. So we just want to make sure everything is tidied up and we're doing things the right way.
Thank you, Mike. And I do agree with you. Yankee Line has a very good reputation in our city, and you do a lot of outstanding work helping, especially our seniors in our city. So I just want to acknowledge that and say thank you for some of the community work that you do and Yankee Line does. So having said that, I want to thank Captain Goggin. I want to thank Ed Hesford from the Transportation Department. I want to thank you, Mike Costa from Yankee Line. I also want to acknowledge Candace and Juan from City Council Central staff for their work. And at this time, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thanks, Councilor.
Mr. Chair.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Captain. Take care.
Hey, did I just kick you out?
Yeah, it's okay. I'm jumping
Oh.
back in.
I was trying to go stop that heel, how do you say